Hello friends, I am Julie Ferwerda and we are in the middle of a series on deconstructing the false man-made doctrine of hell. We've been using my book, Raising Hell, Christianity's Most Controversial Doctrine Put Under Fire, and we are also in the process of reconstructing what is the truer character of God. Today we are going to talk about one of the objections that I personally had to face when I was deconstructing this terrible doctrine, and that is, how could so many people be wrong? I struggled with this for a long time. Like when I first discovered all of the Bible mistranslations and all of the ways that the doctrine of hell had been formed by men and, through centuries and time, one of the first things I encountered as a mental hurdle was, how could so many people be duped? I mean, like millions of people over time in the Christian church, and particularly in the Evangelical Christian church, have been duped about this doctrine. So I sat with that for a long time, and today I just want to share with you some of the ways that I was able to psychologically move beyond this hurdle. The first thing that I realized is that historically the masses have always been misguided or misled. And it's interesting because we come into modern day Christianity and suddenly we trust the masses. But even in Jesus's day, he was taking on the narrative and the beliefs and the system of his day, the religious system. He was deconstructing it, and he was pointing them to a different and better way. And actually, you can go back even further than that, and you realize that the prophets were also attacking the mainstream narrative or the predominant religious culture of their day. And moving forward, as you move into like the early centuries of how Christianity was formed by the Roman Catholic Church, it was primarily a political and power structure that formed the doctrines of the church. And we see so many remnants of this today in our religious teachings and beliefs and religious system. And even though the Christian church, basically believes or claims that they've moved away from their Catholic roots, there's still so many of those strongholds and false beliefs in play. It's almost like in our day we were part of kind of a mainstream religious culture that in our own way, and as Christians we've thought that the rest of the world was duped, and that we somehow single-handedly were smart enough and protected enough and shrewd enough that we came into this story and we're the only ones who were not duped. And if you think about it, like evangelical Christians, I think they only make up about maybe 14% of America, and I forget what the statistic is of what their percentage of the Christian religion in America, but it's not even the majority. And it's like I'm questioning, how could the religion I grew up in be duped? How could all those masses of people be duped? But that's exactly what Christianity is saying about everybody else. They're saying the Muslims are duped, and the Buddhists are duped, and the Hindus are duped, and the atheists are duped, and the Catholics are duped, and the list goes on and on. So, it's not really that unique or unusual for people to think that they're in some kind of special club that is the only group that somehow missed being deceived or misled. So I also noticed a couple of interesting Bible passages along the way. There's a verse in, I think it's Luke 18:8, that says, "When the Son of Man returns to the earth, will he find faith?" This verse always stumped me because if there's so many Christians in this world and these people wholeheartedly believe that they're the only group of people on earth that aren't duped and they have the truth, why was Jesus worried about there not being faith on the earth? And then I noticed another verse in Revelation that I forget where it is, but it says that the dragon or the devil was thrown down to the earth where he deceives the whole world. So you look at something like that and, it's pretty sobering. Like, as a Christian, I just wonder, how did I always read over that and think that I was somehow spared being duped or deceived, when the Bible even says that everyone has been deceived. Think about how there are 35,000 or more flavors of Christianity, and they all somehow think that they have a corner on truth, or that they were single-handedly able to discern the secrets of the universe, while everybody else was completely misled or misguided. I mean, as I got to think about this conundrum I had about how could so many people be duped, I realized how silly it was that anyone thinks that they're not duped. It's pretty crazy, because we all come into this story handed a lot of traditions and mistranslations, and like they say, that history is written for the most part by the powerful, and we are subject to that. So today, one of the things I just really want to challenge you with is to realize it's not actually all that strange that everyone was duped. What's really strange is if there's any possibility of us figuring out what the truth is. And that's really unique and special. And I want to propose that what Jesus meant when he said, when the Son of Man returns to the earth, will he find faith? What he was really looking for is a people who have been called out of this system of religion with all of its terrible misrepresentations and false doctrines and false teachings about the doctrines that are doctrines of men about the character of God. And what he really meant is, will we still be able to find those few people who believe in the absolutely benevolent, ever-loving, forgiving, perfectly gracious and loving parent that the Bible teaches that God is? Will we find faith in this God who would never send anyone to hell or even imagine it? He even said about the people throwing their children in the fire to Baal or to Moloch, he even said that never in my worst imagination did I command such a thing or even think of such a thing, that people would throw their children in fire. And here we come on the scene and we buy into hook, line, and sinker that the character of God is worse than Hitler. That this God would banish and punish and ostracize and not make a way for all people to experience love and forgiveness and compassion and goodness and mercy and blessing and good news. And by the way, when Jesus was born, it said that the angel announced good tidings of great joy, which would be for all the people, not just a few of the people. So when the Son of Man returns to the earth, will he find this faith, these people who believe in the goodness of God and who never wavered in believing that God never once entered his mind to throw anyone into flames, but to reconcile and redeem and bring home every one of the sheep that was lost? That's the kind of faith that I believe Jesus is looking for, or was looking for in his day, and the kind of faith that God is still looking for today. So I hope you've enjoyed this little snapshot of what to do with the question of how could so many people possibly be duped. It's easy to see how we've all been duped. We've been handed these traditions, but it's time for us to recover the beautiful faith in a loving God, a good parent, a God who says to forgive our enemies as much as possible, and this God is willing to do the same. And God loves you. He will never give up on you. You are a treasured part of Him and her. And this is extravagant faith. So I will look forward to seeing you again next time, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please share it with your friends and make sure you subscribe.